How to upgrade your life and marriage with Paul Mort. How dads can break the cycles of mediocrity, lead themselves first, and upgrade their lives and marriages. A lot of dads don't even realize it, but they're running the same patterns every single day. They wake up, they work a job they can just about tolerate to provide for their families. They come home feeling unappreciated, disconnected, and stuck. And the scary thing is that they think that this is just how life is supposed to be. This is why so many middle-aged dads feel like they're just existing instead of leading. Many men showing up thinking their marriage is the problem, when in reality, they've lost themselves. Paul Mort is a man who knows exactly what it feels like. He's been at rock bottom. He's fought through depression, self-sabotage, and near collapse, and built himself back up into a world-class coach, speaker, author, and leader. Let's go. His latest book, Upgrade, is all about breaking free from excuses, stories, and patterns that keep you stuck. So today, we're going deep on self-leadership, marriage, mindset, and what it really takes to upgrade your life. Paul, welcome to the show, mate.
Mate, thank you so much. That is an intro and a half. Thank you so much.
I appreciate you being here today.
Because often I get asked the question, obviously, especially with the book, I have to do a fair few podcasts, and I hate it when people ask me, can you tell the listeners a little bit about yourself? And I'm like, geez, man, I just think it's lazy. It's lazy. And I'm like, that's your job. So, mate, thank you so much for that, Rick. I'm buzzing with that. Yeah, I'm excited. Let's dance.
Let's dive in there. I guess straight off the back, what inspired you to write Upgrade?
Oh, great question, mate. So in 2020, towards the end of 2020, I got approached by a major publisher through my agent, who is James Smith's agent. So me and Smith I used to coach Smith, so we have a lot of connections together. And they said, listen, Paul, we'd love you to do a book. And I was like, oh, wow. When do you want it by? And they were like, it was like 4 months later they wanted it. I was like, listen, I'm busy coaching people. So they said, well, why don't we do an audiobook, because that's less of a risk for us. We don't have to pay for printing, and we can get it done. You can get an audiobook done way faster. So I was like, okay, let's go with it. Now, that was great. It changed my profile. It boosted my profile. It got me more connections. It allowed me to help more people. I got a lot of great feedback on it. It changed a lot of people's lives, that book. But I'd always had a goal, probably since around about 2019, when this business that I have now really started taking off. And I would always see, like, I would describe myself as a good networker. Like, I'm a good connector of people. Like, my connections are pretty good. Like, my network, my peer group they're all playing at a higher level than me, basically. Celebrities, comedians, professional fighters, influencers, all that kind of stuff, successful business owners. And my kids, we travel a lot. If you know anything about me, you'll know that I go on holiday a lot, like maybe 6 times a year. We love to travel. We love to take the kids to different countries, train jiu-jitsu in different countries. And my kids would always be like, Dad, when are you going to have a book? At W.H. Smith's at the airport, they'd always go, Dad, how come all your friends have got books and you don't have one? And I was like, well, let's change that. So let's change that. And also, I've just got a lot more to share with people than the stuff that I could cover in one book. I mean, I've been self-employed for 24 years. I've been married for 14 years. I've been with the same woman for 24 years or something like that, like a long time. So I've got a lot of experience. I've been, like I say, self-employed a long time. And also, a lot had changed between 2020 and 2025, essentially. A lot had changed. And the last piece is, that first book ended up being less about me and more about guys that I'd worked with. So we were doing this research, and the publishers were like, Paul, we've spoken to a couple of your clients. We need to change the book and make it essentially about these guys whose lives have transformed. And I loved it, and I love writing it, I love working on it, but I was like, I've got so much more to say. And also I think that I wanted a book that, do you know, like the Daily Stoic and that? Really easy read, because you can read a section or a page or a chapter a day, and you couldn't really do that with the audiobook. So I was like, I wanted to create a book where I taught more stuff, where it was very practical, and I essentially wrote it really for northern blokes, right? Northern men who don't normally read, right? But go pick this up, taking a section of the book, do an exercise at the end, pick it up again the next day. Essentially, what I would call a vitamin for your mind every day. You take this vitamin every morning, and it will get you thinking differently. So I suppose that kind of inspired me. So all of those reasons, really. The main one was just it was a bit of a bucket list goal for me, and it's not easy to get a book published, man. Especially when I have a small following, and in personal development, it's almost like, well, if you're not a doctor and you don't have a massive following, it's actually very difficult to get published because when you have a big following, the publisher's guaranteed sales. Guaranteed sales. So I could have self-published it, but that wouldn't have got me on the shelves in W.H. Smith. So, yeah, man, all of those reasons. I hated writing it. Hated it. It wasn't I would say it was a labour of love, but it wasn't. I hate it. So, yeah.
Exactly.
But probably on the side of that, the feedback has been incredible so far.
Yeah.
And on the other side of that, I haven't actually seen it in the airport yet because I travelled last weekend, but I travelled from Manchester and they didn't have it. So I'm traveling from Newcastle. Actually, I am flying from Newcastle in 2 weeks to Saudi Arabia for the boxing. And I'm hoping to see it then, but I've been sent photos. So it was worth eating shit for about 4 months of my life to see it. Even just a photo of it on the shelves in W.H. Smith. Like, it's wild.
Huge.
Yeah.
And we appreciate you doing your work, Paul. It obviously touches a lot more people. I'm in Australia, so you're reaching an audience far and wide. So
that is pretty cool, man. It is pretty cool.
Most men, let's classify us as middle age. Yes. Why do you think so many middle-aged men end up in a cycle of quiet desperation without even realizing it?
They lose their sense of purpose. So when we leave school, we have a goal of I had a goal of getting a job that I was never going to get because I had 2 GCSEs. Like, I had 0. So we get the goal is really you might leave school, go to college, maybe go to university, and then get a job, or leave school and get a job, then meet a girl, then get married, and then have kids, and then what? Nothing. Yeah. Wait, retire, work until you retire, a couple of holidays a year. That's not a sense of purpose. That is, in my opinion, and a sense of purpose is just a feeling. It's not what you are born to do. In my opinion, it's a feeling. And it comes from having a compelling future that inspires you to move towards it. And we stop thinking about the future and we're just, as men, let's get to Friday. Let's get to Friday. Let's make it to the 2 weeks in fucking Turkey or whatever, right? 2 weeks in Turkey. And let's make it to the next session, the next party, whatever that looks like, the next gathering with your mates. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it's not that exciting. So they end up leading boring lives. And I believe that they go around in circles. It's like getting in a taxi every morning, and the taxi driver saying, "Where do you want to go?" And most men will get up and say, "Well, not here." There's no destination in mind. There's just they're going round in circles, and when you go round in circles, you always end up in the same place. So I believe it's a lack of this sense of purpose. You make it to a certain age, you've got the job, you've got the kids, you've got the missus, you maybe split up with the missus. I don't know. But then there becomes a lack of purpose, which just means that your focus shifts. I'm big on what you focus on, you get more of, right? So men, we get to a certain age and we tend to focus on what we don't want. We tend to focus on the things that we don't like. We tend to focus on all the things we're shit. And we tend to focus on the past. Notice this, right? When middle-aged men get together on the booze, no one ever talks about their future. They talk about the fight that they had in primary school. They talk about the fight that they had in primary school. The woman, the lass that they fingered on the dance floor that time. Like, that's what they talk about. It's just, they can't wait to talk about the past. And I'm like, that's gone. There's no talk about the future. So that's why I believe many men get lost. They lose the sense of purpose. They don't have a compelling vision of the future anymore. And they focus on the wrong things. Like, I had a video coming that people aren't going to like. There's a video going around right now and everyone's talking about it, which is the UK is the most depressing country in the world. I'm like, well, I'm not depressed. None of my clients are depressed living here. You're depressed because of what you're focused on. And also, if you don't like it, why don't you fuck off? If you don't like it that much, why don't you fucking leave then? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the other thing is, when you focus on all of the things that you don't like, you get more of it. Like, I don't like me. I pay 45% tax. I pay 45% tax. I must pay £250,000 a year in tax every year.
Yeah.
Minimum, right?
Huge.
But I don't focus on that. People are like, why don't you move to Dubai? I'm like, well, because then I'd miss the things that I like about England. going to football, going to fucking boxing, going to live sporting events. I would miss all of that, and that's the thing that I love. I'd miss the people that I like hanging around with. I'd miss my clients that I love spending time with. Like, I'm focused on the shit.
More money.
Yeah, exactly. I would never move countries to save tax. Like, what? When I die, do you think I'm going to worry about all the tax that I've spent? Not the tax that I've paid. I'm going to regret the things that I've missed out on. I'm going to regret. Here's the truth. One of the only reasons I haven't moved countries is because I would miss going to football. That's my thing. Me and my son go to football all over the world. And if I lived in Dubai or even Australia, it's not a thing.
Yeah, that's the one thing that's the painful thing about, I moved here about 14 years ago now. It's painful. Time-wise, it's painful, but
And it's not the same. Like, people are like, well, just watch it on TV. But one of my highest values, and everyone has different values, is I love being at live football at this period of my life, especially with my 14-year-old son. We had a game on Monday, and at the end of the game, my son said, Dad, I'll never forget that game. We beat Middlesbrough 3-2, last-minute goal. It was away from home. We ended up in the row behind because we got like tipped over backwards celebrating the goal. And my son said, I'll never forget that. Yeah. So I wouldn't get that anywhere else. And I'm just big on, like, I believe the best part of being human is the experiences we get to have.
Yeah, 100%. And you talk a lot about how action creates confidence, not the other way around. So for the bloke who's stuck in his own head, he's procrastinating, what's the first move he needs to make to, I guess, snap himself out of it? Yeah.
So procrastination happens when we're trying to get ourselves to do a task that we just don't value. There's no such, in my opinion, there's not really a thing. It's procrastination as a label when you are doing something other than the thing that you said you'd do, right? So one of the first things you got to look at is, okay, what are the tasks that I don't procrastinate on, and what is the common denominator here, right? It's either the thing that because they say success leaves clues, right? So you don't procrastinate on everything. You procrastinate on tasks that are low value for you. You don't enjoy doing them. You're shit at them. They don't excite you. They're not linked to your goals enough. So I'm like, if you look at all the things that you like doing, that you do get done, they usually have some level of excitement, some level of, I enjoy doing this, some level of, there's urgency on it. I have to get it done. So the first thing they need to start doing is actually looking at what the task is. What am I doing instead? Well, you're watching cats playing the piano, mate. Like, that's not, I'm not procrastinating. I'm watching cats playing the piano. If you think about it like that, it's fucking embarrassing. So the first thing you need to do, I would say, actually, we mentioned it in the first question, I need a compelling target to move towards, something that excites me, something that scares me a little bit, something that impacts other people as well. You never procrastinate over tasks if you're like, well, if I don't do this, my kids suffer.
Yeah, okay.
If I don't do this, do you know what I mean? Like, but that's when you're doing things that you don't like doing. Like, I build my life. I'd rather make less money than do shit that I hate all the time.
It's actually leading into the family life, this next part. I appreciate you sharing that. And I just want to touch on you and your leadership at home and how you lead in your marriage. And in your opinion, mate, how does a dad actually lead in his marriage without falling into the trap of either being passive or controlling?
It leads by example. It's a great book I'd recommend. It's called The Values Factor by Dr. John DeMartini. I've done a lot of work with Dr. John. He's came in and done trainings for my clients. And Dr. John's a genius. And he's got like 7 doctorates or something. Like, he's a doctor on about 7 different things. Unbelievable, this guy. He's unbelievable. He lives on his house is on a cruise ship. Like, he doesn't have a house. Okay. He owns houses, but he doesn't live in one because he's always traveling. He's like, what's the point? So he has a room permanently on a cruise ship. So he just flies into where the cruise ship is. He's unbelievable, this guy. Anyway, he taught me this concept of values. Marriages start to break down when there's a conflict in values. Now, I don't mean values where we talk about integrity, honesty. They are, I believe anyway, social idealisms or personality traits that we try and live by. Values are the things that you think about. You love talking about. You don't need an invite to talk about it. You can recall information on it easily. You don't need motivated to talk about it, think about it, be about it, do it. That's your values. right? So when we have a misalignment of values and we expect somebody else to live our values, like expecting my wife to be into football is insane, right? That's just what I'm using that as an example. Expecting my wife to be into being on the stage is insane. So we get this. So I allow my wife to live her values, and she likes different things to me, but I don't try and stop her from doing them. I'm just like, how does her value allow me to live mine? But ultimately, leadership, in my opinion, is about two things. Number one, example, not preaching. Most dads in particular preach, and they're full of shit. Why the fuck would you think about it, right? Why the fuck would your son listen to you, other than the fact that you're his dad? Think about that. If your son came back to you and said, or your daughter said, well, why would I listen to you, Dad? You don't do that. And your answer would be, because I'm your dad. That doesn't give you a right. You know what I mean? That doesn't give you a right to preach to something just because you came out me ball sack. Part of you came, you know what I mean? Like, so I try and lead by example. I'm not perfect, but I can't expect my kids to do something that I'm not willing to. The same with clients, the same with my team. So by example, and the second thing I believe is this is huge, energy. Energy, either your energy, your aura, your mood will either inspire people and energize them or drain the shit out of them. Think about that. Why, if you want to be a leader, you're expecting people to follow you. So I'm like, if someone asks me about this and in the program, pull out or lead at home, I'm like, well, why would anyone follow you? Why? Just because you're married to them. That's bullshit. That's a lot of us dads and husbands will get entitled. Just because you're married to her doesn't mean she's going to follow you. Just because they're your kids doesn't mean they're going to follow you. Why would they follow you? Why would they? Because I'm the example. I try and be my best anyway. That's it. That's it. My 14-year-old son is listening to Alex Hormozzi's podcast, and I didn't even tell him to. I mean, sometimes there's a lazy fucker that just likes playing Call of Duty. And that's the thing. In the past, I'd have lectured him for that. But that's what he's into, right? He's into his sports as well. How can I expect him to be into sports? How can I expect him to exercise if I don't?
Yes, leading by example.
Even then, I don't preach it to him because I learned this lesson the hard way when he was younger. I'm a big fan of jiu-jitsu, and I pushed him into jiu-jitsu. And I pushed him so hard that he ended up hating it. Right? I love football. I pushed him into playing football so hard that he ended up hating it. He only came back to football when he was like 11. He had like 6 years where he had no interest in it because I pushed him. I expected him to like the things that I like just because he's my son. It's bullshit. So now I'm just like, listen, I'm doing this thing. If you enjoy it, you can come along. And it's a problem now because he wants to go everywhere. He had me, mate, on Sunday, he had me at AC Milan versus Inter Milan.
I saw that. You know San Siro?
San Siro. It was crazy. Nice. And then we went straight from there. We landed in Manchester on the Monday afternoon and went straight to Middlesbrough. It's wild. He's got me in all sorts, man. He's got me. What are we doing? Tomorrow, I have 3 jiu-jitsu matches in Middlesbrough, and then we're going to the bare knuckle boxing in Newcastle. Like, he's just...
Oh, nice. I love it.
Oh, yeah. So that's just their experience with my son. We do things, but mate, leadership for me, example, energy. That's it. That's it. How would you be inspired? Why would someone... Because again, if we're talking about leadership, that means there are followers.
Yeah.
Would you follow you? Dads listening. Would you follow you? No.
That's huge.
If no is the answer, you have to step up, not expect people and think you're entitled to lead at home. You're not entitled to shit.
I'm definitely going to. I'm going to clip that part for sure. That's a winner.
And I know this, and I can say this because, like you said, I have been king of the dickheads.
It leads me on to my next question here, Paul, and I hope you don't mind me going there. You've been through some dark times, mate, and I know you hit rock bottom at one point.
Yeah.
What was one of the moments where you said, like, finally, this is enough, and took back control of your life?
Yeah, I'll give you two. 2 of them around depression and 1 of them around anxiety. So I was diagnosed bipolar in 2014. I lived in Marbella at the time. I'd been drinking. I'd been sniffing a lot of coke. It caused a lot of problems for me. And 2014, I ended up, like you said, at rock bottom. And the moment that changed was I would disappear for 3 days at a time. I'd go on 3-day benders. not contact anybody, just disappear. So I was volatile. I had a son that was 3, and I had a daughter, maybe he was 4. I had a daughter that was like 6 months old. She was born in Marbella, Spain. And my wife would follow me. She would legit, this day in particular, I left, slammed the doors, I'm not coming back. She followed me in a car with my daughter in the car, and I went to a cliff. I was ready. I don't know whether I would have or not. I don't think I would have had the courage to do it if I'm brutally honest, right? And she follows me, and the moment that really woke me up was she said, think about the kids. So she followed me onto this cliff. She was like, Paul, please, 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 think about the kids. And this is weird, horrible thing to say, I genuinely thought they'd be better off without me. I was awful to be around. I was a terrible example. I was a warning rather than an example, actually. I was a warning sign. And I was like, they'd be better off without me. And then she said, well, think about them growing up then as those kids whose dad pretty much gave up on them. She said, killed himself. And that moment was like, oh, well, I'm not willing to do that. And I knew that things should have changed. But in that moment, I suppose it became less about me. Because when you're depressed like that, this sounds weird. When you're depressed, your focus is only on you. You have a very narrow focus, a narrow lens of the world. It sounds weird. You become the center of a universe. You don't think about anyone else when you're depressed. It's just about you. When you're anxious, who else are you thinking about? You, only you. You get a narrow view of the world, a convergent view, if you like. And so that was the first piece. And then I remember maybe 2 weeks later, madly enough, I said I'd get my shit together, and I was full of shit. Like, think about this. I just kept breaking promises. I'd make a promise, break it. I would come to an agreement, break it. And I remember on Christmas Eve that year, this is embarrassing, I went out on the booze on Christmas Day, through the day, ended up on the packet. Now, I went back because I had a train track to build, a toy train track. And I was so pissed that I couldn't do it. So I had to ring me dad. This is the second moment. And my dad just looked at me, didn't even say anything. Just looked at me like, almost like come on, bro. Didn't say anything. He would never say anything. And that was a second like, oh, wow, this is terrible. And then on the next day, I had, they called the community support team. That means suicide watch. I had those people at my house on Christmas Day. And there was a girl called Donna, a lady called Donna. And she, again, didn't say anything. She just looked at me in a way that I assumed was, are you fucking serious? Like, I assumed it. She just looked at me in the way my mother would look at me over the top of her glasses. Like, just a look.
Yeah.
And that was the third wake-up call. And then I started moving from there. And, mate, there are so many ups and downs in this. Sometimes I do still get down. I had a bit of a challenge last year. I was ill for the whole of October and the whole of November. I really struggled. And I wouldn't say I really struggled. It just wasn't a lot of fun. My energy was lower. I ended up actually making some amazing changes in my life as a result of that. Because I was just going too fast. I was going too fast. I had the book thing going on. I have a lot of clients. Business is growing. I was training a lot of jiu-jitsu, a lot of travel. Anyway, so the next moment it was probably, I think, around about 2018. So 4 years on. And I was on a flight to a place called Syracuse, which is upstate New York. I was going to my friend's wedding to be an usher at his wedding. And the first flight is to Chicago. Or if you're from Northern England, Chicago, right? So we went to Chicago. And on this flight, I'd always had some challenges with anxiety and panic attacks, right? And on this flight, I remember it very clearly. I was watching Marley and Me. I was on my own. And I was watching Marley and Me. And I just had this feeling, I want to speak to the kids. So I went to call them. And of course, I'm halfway to the moon. So of course there's no reception, right? And then I just start going into this spiral of, well, I hope they're okay. Shit, I really want to speak to them. Oh, I hope they're okay. What if they're asking about me? And I just started fucking building up this panic attack. Next thing I know, I'm getting sedated on the flight.
Yeah, right.
And this is like, holy shit, this is a problem. So I got so sedated that I landed in Chicago. I was at the gate to go from Chicago to Syracuse 2 hours early, and I missed the flight because I was so fucked up mentally.
Yeah.
And that was just a gigantic wake-up call for me again. It's like you need these moments of darkness, these moments of where you feel most alone. are usually where you'll find quite a lot out about yourself. And that became a pivotal moment, a light bulb moment, a fuck this moment, I would call it. A fuck this. This is not happening again.
I think this is the reason why so many people would be drawn to yourself, Paul, is that you're just so raw and honest. Whereas people kind of cover this book, people pull the door behind this, they cover the windows, they pull the curtains across, and don't actually talk about what's going on for them and the things that they're facing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't go any other way. Like, if I'd feel like I was lying if I didn't.
I love it. I really appreciate you doing it. Off the back of that, Paul, I think something that could be really relevant for my audience, with those moments of almost like disconnection for yourself personally, and obviously I'm presuming they would have caused some disconnection in your marriage. How did you come back from that? How did you rebuild from that? Or what was the first steps? Like, like after you've had that moment and you've been on the cliff and you've had that moment, or you've had this time, what's the first step the following day of like, okay, this is the direction we're going now? Like, how?
I'm doing something in 2014, which most people would call journaling. So it's a reflection tool. It's a tool that I use in business a lot. You always think about it in business. If you're trying to grow your business, there's got to be some level of data looking backwards. What worked? What didn't work? What are the numbers here? And I've been self-employed, like I say, since 2001. I went self-employed. So this is something you have to do to build a successful business. And I started doing that in my life. So the first point is reflection. And the second thing, I'd learned this. I probably didn't learn this until about 2016, but then I realized it made a lot of sense. There's a book by a guy called Dan Sullivan, and I worked with this guy for maybe 3 years. And he wrote a book called Who Not How, right? Instead of asking, how do I do this? How can I get my shit together? How am I going to fix this anxiety? It's like, who can help me? Who's already done it? Who's already been there? Who can open doors? Who's the expert? Who's the specialist? And I suppose in 2014, you've got to consider that was the year I made my first £1 million. My first million, 2014, I was rock bottom. So it's not as, and the reason I'm saying that is because the upside of building a successful business, the downside was that I sacrificed everything to build it.
Yeah.
Right? The upside was it allowed me to invest in coaches, in mentors, in retreats. And I just found some stuff that worked for me. But the whole who, not how question, all the boys that I'm coaching right now, that's all they're ever asking each other. Who can help me with this? Who knows this person? Who can introduce me to him? Who can get tickets for this? That's happening quite a lot at the minute. Who can get tickets for this? Who can introduce me to that person? Like, so that concept of one, reviewing what happened, why was it positive? How can I learn from it? What's the next step? So action is essentially the only answer. But the concept of who, not how, is a cheat code. If I could have done it on my own, I'd have already done it.
Is that something like? Yeah, I love it. I love the idea of like getting the mentors, getting the right people, and the right help in the right place.
It's a cheat code, man. It will save you time. And actually, people talk about being expensive. It's more expensive to try and figure it out on your own.
Yeah, 100%.
More expensive. Because it's time. Here's a question I asked on my social media the other day. I said, it's an intriguing question. What would you rather have more of, time or money? Guess what everyone says? Time. Fucking prove it then. You're full of shit. You wouldn't rather have. Here's the thing. Your actions demonstrate what you're committed to. Your results demonstrate what you're being committed to. So stop telling me you want more time. You're full of shit. You're saying you want it, but you're doing something different. So which one is it? Yeah, sorry. I'm ranting a lot here.
No, it's good. I love it. With you yourself, Paul, you're obviously a highly successful businessman. You're here, there, you're everywhere. You're juggling that as well as being a dad and a successful marriage and a family man. What's your biggest secret in that? How does yourself and your wife, is it Leslie?
Yes.
How does yourself and Leslie, how do you guys stay aligned and stay in sync in terms of your communication and your connection with each other when there's so much going on? Like you're at the San Siro, you're here, you're there.
Yeah. She's also just joined the Special Police Force. So bear in mind, she helps me run this business. It's a 7-figure business. We have a 2-story. We've got 8 people in the team. We've got hundreds of clients. She helps. She's basically the CEO. I'm like a dancing fucking bear, right?
Okay.
It's not really like that, obviously, right? Because I started it, but she's and she's just joined the Special, so she's in the police for free as well. So we have a very busy life. We have 2 kids that have always got shit going on. So there's 2 things here. Number 1, communication that's an obvious one, but we essentially have meetings with each other. Number 2, I'm going to call it preloading. We preload everything. And that just means we're organized as fuck. Most men that I know that tell me they're busy are making it up. The reality is they're chronically disorganized and they are unclear on the priorities. So I preload months and months and months in advance. So if Leslie's like, she doesn't have to ask me what I'm up to. I don't have to ask her what's happening. We just sync calendars. And it sounds anal, right? It sounds, and I suppose it sounds boring, but my life is anything but boring. It's the truth. It's called preloading. People that tell me they're busy, and think about this is the ultimate paradox. People who have no time, who say they're busy, then tell me they're too busy to learn how to be less busy. Think about that for a second. How can you be too busy to learn how to be less busy? When does that stop? When your missus leaves? Like, I'm not kidding. Yeah. Like, I'm too busy to learn how to be less busy. It's fucking insane to me. But it's like people that are time poor, like people that are money poor, can never tell you where it's gone. And they can't tell you where it's going either because they don't have a schedule. I'm like, well, how do you know you're busy if you don't have a schedule? They just feel busy. I don't have a minute to myself. Well, where's it gone then? Can't show you. They just feel busy. They feel busy. It's a feeling. A full schedule is a full schedule. Busy is a feeling.
I love it.
That's my belief anyway. And I am both of those things. I'm actually less busy now because I made some decisions last year where my life is now about what I say no to, not what I say yes to.
Yeah. Okay.
What's a no for me? What's a no for me? What has got to get deleted? What do I need to stop doing? What do I need to clear the plate for? What is a 10 out of 10 priority versus loads of competing things? And that was a huge decision. That's when I was sick. That's what I had to get clear on. I can't say yes to everything. If I say yes to everything, I'm going to not do a very good job of things. There are some things in your life that move the needle forward. I'm jamming my schedule for more of those. Things that have strategic significance in my life. Most people are busy, feeling busy, doing busy bullshit.
Yeah. With that and your work, your calendar, and come the end of the day, like say when you've wrapped up today and maybe when you go home to your family, one of the things that guys struggle with that come to in our world, they might be like CEOs, they may run their own business, they may have jobs where they have to be quite direct and have a lot of masculine energy around them. How do you go about having the version of Paul that's super masculine energy, super passionate, super driven, to the point, no BS, to a conversation where you're having it with your daughter and you have to put your different hat on when you come home? How do you go about that? Is it always the same mode?
Always the same mode. Always the same. For me, I'm not a chameleon. I can do it, but I'm the same guy. Anyone that meets me will say you're the same guy in person as you are in life. I'm the same all the time. I'm not changing a mask because, my daughter's, she's a fucking character, to be fair. She is. My two kids are so different. My son's quiet and reserved, right? Chill. My daughter is like me, 11-year-old me. She's fucking dynamite. She's into all sorts. She's acting, she's dancing, she's singing, she's skiing. She's in every club at school. She's friends with kids that are like 3 years older somehow. I don't know what that is. But I don't really change that much. Why would I filter myself for my kids? Like, I might swear a little bit less, but they hear worse at school. Or my kids, it's weird this. I swear around my kids and they don't swear. I'll never tell them off for it. They get it. They have respect.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to filter myself out. And again, people might not like this, but I'm doing what I'm doing and it's working. So this is not advice. You ask me what I do, so this is not advice. I'm not going to change who I am for anyone. And it's interesting this because I've got the book out. I know I miss out on opportunities because of this, but it's fine. For example, I was meant to get interviewed for a major magazine about 3 weeks ago. And I put out a video on my Instagram. That was an attention grabber. So it was a lady with big boobs, right? Right? And basically this got 10 times more views than any of my other posts.
Yeah, got you.
I went like this. I said, and I haven't got a copy of it right now. I said, listen, I have, why are you watching this? Go and buy my new book. 2 hours later, I got a message off the publisher saying, hey, Paul, I'll not name them. I'll get in even more trouble. This magazine have withdrew their request for an interview. because of that video. And I was like, that's a shame. But listen, if you're offended by big tits, the interview would have been a disaster. So I'm like, am I okay? I ask myself this fairly regularly, especially right now with the book, because it's very relevant. Am I okay with missing out on these opportunities? I mean, yeah, I am, because I'm not willing to wear a mask. I'm not willing to tone myself down. I'm not willing to dull myself. I'm not willing, like, I turn down speaking gigs quite a lot. I'm like, can I be unfiltered? They're like, no, you'll have to not say this. I'm like, I'm not doing it then.
Yeah, it's just,
Again, like I said, I'm just not willing to do that. And I've got to ask myself whether I'm okay with missing the opportunities. And ultimately I am.
Yeah.
Ultimately I am. Yeah.
Diving into this, why do you think it's a bit of a slight change, but why do you think so many blokes turn to escapism, turn to booze, drugs, porn, endless scrolling, instead of actually facing their shit?
Because it's easier. Say ultimately it's easier. It's fast. Think about this. Good habits are hard. Good habits are hard. Going to the gym, this doesn't make you feel great instantly. You feel like shit usually. It's hard. It hurts. It stinks. It's full of knobs. Right? And listen, going to the shop and getting 4 bottles on your way home, easy, convenient, makes you feel better, fast. The only reason I don't think there's such a thing as self-sabotage, because nobody does anything to feel worse. Yes, you feel worse later down the line, but everything that we do is to feel better. So booze, scrolling, rubbing one out, whatever it is that you choose to do, you're self-soothing to make yourself feel better. And men do it because it's easier until it's not.
Yeah, got you.
Until it gets to a point where it's not. Most people will wait until we hit that rock bottom moment and then change, and then we'll forget. We'll forget why we started, and then we keep doing it and doing it and doing it and doing it.
Yeah.
It's just, and I get it, because it is easy to do that. It is easy. Shit.
Do you have like a go-to strategy for breaking free from like avoidance and I guess stepping back into discipline? Like, what's your go-to?
So one thing is, it's mad this. I have this opinion on discipline that's very different than most people's. The people that talk about discipline, doing the thing that they're talking about discipline in, they love the thing. So guys that talk about discipline in the gym, they love the gym. That's not discipline. Right? You only need discipline to do things that you don't like doing.
Yeah.
Right? So first of all, can I build a plan and a strategy that doesn't involve me having to eat dog shit every morning? Like, because I can get the same result, right? I don't like going to the gym and lifting weights. Picking things up and then putting them back down again is not exciting to me. But I do love rolling around the floor with really tight clothes on with young men. That's jiu-jitsu, by the way. It's not gay at all. It's not gay, I promise. It looks it. See, I don't need discipline to go and train jiu-jitsu. Actually, it's harder than lifting weights, but I love it. I could say, hey, go to jiu-jitsu even when you don't want to. It just takes discipline, but I love it, so I'd be lying.
Yeah.
I need discipline to go to the gym because I hate it. So first up, don't build plans full of things that you hate doing. Right?
Yeah.
Because you don't have to. I'm okay with not, because going to the lifting weights, if you want to get in shape, right? We all know it's the ultimate way to get shredded, right? It's the thing that you have to do. But I'm okay with not doing something that I hate, right? And doing something that I love and being a little bit less shredded.
Yeah.
Okay. Like I said before, I'm okay making less money, not doing things that I hate, right?
Yeah.
And I found this out the hard way, mate. If I think about this, when I built my successful business, I thought there'd be a happy ending to an unhappy journey. There's no such thing. Like, I don't see, and again, people will want to argue with me on this. How can you live a life that you love, constantly doing things that you loathe? You really can't, right? So first up, pick a way to get the result that you want, because there's multiple different ways to skin a cat. People know this. Find the way that requires the least discipline. Right? Right? Why would you do it? Secondly, you can't really just do things that you love all the time. Like, I still have to lift weights. It's good for your body. It's good for your joints. It makes us better at jiu-jitsu. Stops me from getting injured as much. So what do I have? A who, not a how. Accountability. That's what I have in my team, in my business. It's a great thing about having a team. If I say I'm going to do something and don't do it, Like, I'm a boss that's full of shit, right? So accountability to my team. I have accountability to my clients. I have a duty as a coach to lead by example. It's what people love the most about me in the program. They're like, there's guys who've been in for 3 years. They're like, Paul, they love the fact that I've got a book, because 3 years ago I said, this is going to be difficult, but I'm going to get a book on the shelves with a major publisher. And it happened. So all the lads that have been in for a while are like, fucking hell, Paul, you made it happen. You're not even a big name and you've got a book deal. You're not a doctor or anything. I had to leverage contacts for that. So with the gym, I've been in this morning, actually. I've got a comp tomorrow. So I have a guy I have an appointment with, and I love training with him. The other thing, so I have accountability with him. That's not discipline. It's different.
Yeah.
I'm a man that takes my words seriously, and I don't want to be the guy that says one thing and does another. I've been that guy before. It's shit. It's horrible. Your self-worth goes through the floor. So I started to becoming this man where I do what you said you would. So I tell Andy, he's also a brown belt in jiu-jitsu, so he'll fuck me up if I don't turn up. Twice a week. So accountability. Have someone that you have a little bit of fear about letting down. That's what I did. When I said in 2021, I think it was 2021, end of 2021 maybe, I said, I'm going to do a year booze free. And I'd said that before. But this time, I told everyone. I've made it public. Once I posted it on social media, it was game over. Because I have a fear of what people think. We're all worried about what people think. But I don't use it as a crutch. I use it as fuel. People will think I'm full of shit if I drink. Right? People will think I'm full of shit. So there's that. So one, don't fill your diary, don't fill your plan, your schedule full of shit that you hate doing. Why? It's stupid. Number two, have some level of accountability. People that you have a little bit of fear about letting down. And the third one is, can I link this thing to something that I love doing? So I don't like weight training, but my coach, he's got me down to a T. He'd be like, here's how this benefits your jiu-jitsu. I'd be like, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? So it'd be like, why am I doing pull-ups? He was like, well, when you grab somebody, it makes you really strong. You can fucking pull them in. I'm like, oh, okay. So he can link those exercises to something that I do love. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's like framing it up. So
one of the things I hate doing is PowerPoint presentations, right? Now I can do, mate, I've done a 2-hour theatre show with no slides before, right? But when you speak at corporate events, they expect you to have slides. I hate doing it. So what I have to do is, I'm like, okay, I don't like doing this. How am I going to link it to what I love? Well, actually, I'm going to get paid a lot of money for this thing. And then that's going to pay for tickets for the boxing in Saudi Arabia. Okay, and do you know what I'm saying? I can link the two things together. That's it. So, those are the three things. And that makes your life a million times easier. I'm all about I don't want to make my life hard. I want to make it easier. So I try and do that. It's weird, man. There's this thing, especially with men, that we always have to, it's about who can suffer the most. Like, where's this came from? Why? It's not working. It is. It's like all these fucking ex-Navy SEALs and that. Hey, you have to do all this shit that you hate, and one day you'll be happy, even though I'm a miserable cunt that you've never seen laugh. I see that all the time. All these guys who are pushing hustle and motivation. I'm like, I've never seen you fucking smile, mate. You've got shit banter. You know what I mean? Like,
I love it, Paul.
I'm like, I want to have a laugh in my life, man.
I really appreciate your time, and I've got the last couple of questions I want to get through before I know you need to shoot. What do you say to the guy who thinks he's too far gone to change?
Stop being a fucking baby. Legit.
Full stop.
Stop being a fucking baby, right? And again, if you're a dad, what would you say to your kids if they said that to you? Oh, it's too late now for me to do anything. You'd be like, it's never too late. You can live your dreams while I live a quiet nightmare. Be a fucking example. There's no such thing as too far gone unless you think there is, right? Yeah. But again, think about the things that you're trying to change. It's really not that big a deal, man. So my ultimate thing is, one, stop being a fucking baby. You're using that as a crutch and an excuse. And like you said with the drink, because it's easier. Because it's easier. Most of us, whether we like it or not, we're always looking to be efficient, looking for the easiest option, right? It's easy until it's not. Again, if we're talking about leadership, imagine being the dad. That's full of shit. Imagine that. Imagine looking at yourself from the outside in. This fucking dick is full of shit. He's to his kids about they can be anything they want to be, and he's living a life where he hates it, like, because he's too long. Now, here's what I know. I had a friend die in 2021. You might have read about him in the book Stony. And And that rocked me. Death rocks me. And everyone talks about, every time you go to a funeral, oh, life's really short, isn't it? You're going to make the most of it. But I'm going to go back to the job that I hate, that I've been in for 20 years. Fucking shut up, man. So here's the thing. Imagine this. And that rocked me, that death. Because life is short. But who does anything about it? You keep saying it, but you do nothing about it. And I just think, and again, that death did rock me. I've never dealt with much death in my life. I've been very blessed. I've been to like 3 funerals ever. And I'm 45. Ever. It's mad. And I just think, imagine being dying, right? Getting to the end of your life and thinking, oh, I wish I'd done that thing. I wish I'd left that job, but I told myself it was too late. like imagine that. Imagine, hey kids, I want to get to the end of my life and not be glad it's over, but and think, well, I live a boring life. I want to be like, fucking hell, that was a roller coaster.
Yeah.
That's a fucking movie. That's a blockbuster movie. That shit. Just think, you've got to consider, like, it's only too late. The only time it's too late is when you're 6 foot under. Do you know what I mean? And I get it. I deal with a lot of these guys. Most men that come towards me are over 40, and I get that a lot. And ultimately, the ultimate leverage is your children. What would you tell them? Hey, kids, imagine having a conversation with them. Hey, kids, listen, I know I'm a dick. I know I'm moody all the time. I know that I'm always complaining about my job. I know that me and your mum, sorry, I went full northern there. Me and your mum, I know that we're always arguing and that, and I'm miserable to be around. But you know what? It's too late for me to change. I'm too far gone. Imagine your kid's face. Are you... What?
I love it. Listening to all the kids. Yeah.
Right. Your duty as a dad, in my opinion, is to fucking show your kids how to live. Show your kids how to operate. Stop telling them. Stop preaching. Demonstrate it.
Love it.
And it doesn't mean you have to be perfect. I am far from perfect. I still give my son shit when I'm like, oh, son, I'm sorry for that, man. I had to pull him aside the other day. I had his parents' evening. And he's just no bother me, son. Like, he's no problem at all. He's 14. He's a bit moody. He's a walking stiffy, right? He's just a stiffy. Right?
Never heard that before.
He's got to get a little bit out of that right now. And I had to say to him, son, I said, I know I give you shit sometimes for being lazy and moody and that, right? For sleeping in until 10 a.m. on a Saturday. But I've just had your parents' evening, and I thought about what I was like when I was 14. I was smoking weed and getting pissed on a weekend and that. And I'm giving him shit for playing Fortnite. I'm like, son, I just wanted to apologize to you. I've been giving you shit. But actually, compared to what I was like, you're unbelievable. And he obviously can't stop being gay. that's homophobic, by the way. It's just what kids say, right? Stop, dad, stop it.
Yeah, I totally get it.
Dad, shut up, man.
Paul, I know you're a big fan of gratitude. I know you're a big fan of journaling. I know you're a big fan of ice bath. In your opinion, what's one habit or mindset shift that can give you the biggest ROI on your life?
It needs a new name, but it's journaling. It needs a new name because it sounds shit.
Go on, make one.
It sounds like Dear Diary. So what I do every morning is ask myself questions. What's my number one? Loads of different questions. It's prompted journaling. So essentially, it's about shifting your focus. Most people wake up in the morning and I'm focused on what I'm excited about. It's just a simple question. What are you most excited about today? And I get to choose what that is. Everyone gets to choose what it is. And most of us wake up in the morning and think about what we don't want to do, what we're dreading, what could go wrong. Because I'm journaling, I'm interrupting that thought process. What am I most excited about? What do I want to get done today? And what am I working towards? Who do I want to impact today? So I do that every morning. I shift my thought process to what I want, right? We call it discipline. I can either be focused on what I want, what I'm excited about, or what I don't want and what I'm dreading. That is a fucking decision.
Yeah.
The second thing that I do is on an evening, you mentioned it before, and again, multiple questions, but the number one thing is, really, number one, what was the best part of my day? And then I write down, I do 5, but that seems like a jump if you've never done it before. What were my 5 wins today? 5 biggest wins. And that can be tiny little things. Like yesterday, I ran an event for the whole day. I was on stage for 7 hours yesterday, which made me throat. I sound like fucking Tony Robbins, or if you know who Sean Dyche is, I sound like him today, right? And so I'm a bit croaky. But I was on stage for 7 hours yesterday. So I was like, well, wait, I struggled to find 5 wins, but I found them. I just looked, one of them was I went to watch my son train rugby. That's tiny, but I was there when actually I could have skipped it. That's a little win for me. And this collecting of wins builds confidence. Confidence is created. Confidence is curated. It's curated from progress. You create confidence. It's not something that you have. It's not something that you're given. It comes from measuring backwards. It's created. Now, imagine this. If you just did it for a week and you wrote down 3 things that you did that day, 3 things that you got done, 3 things that maybe you saw that you appreciated, a person that you bumped into, a task that you got done. Imagine you did that for a week. That's 21 wins. Imagine if you did it for a month. That's like 90 wins. Imagine if you did that every day since 2017. That's why I've got offensive levels of confidence. Offensive levels.
Stacking
Not in everything, by the way. The reason I'm doing this jiu-jitsu comp tomorrow is because I hate jiu-jitsu comps. I'm nervous as fuck. I've never won a match. I've had 4 matches in jiu-jitsu and I've lost every single one. But I'm going back tomorrow because I think that every time I do it, you get a little bit more confident. Most people give up. I'm like, fuck it, I'm going. I hate it. I'm doing something. It's weird because I love jiu-jitsu. Competing is just like, imagine this. Imagine my son was at my last match and he was like, Dad, you did way better than before. But I'm demonstrating to him that sometimes you have to do things that you're a little bit scared of. Like, if you want to get better at it, I want to get better at it. That's the thing. There's a difference between hating something, not enjoying something, and wanting to get better at it. I'm like, I'm going to go and do it anyway, and I'm just going to have fun. I realized that, and I had a mindset coach on this fighting thing, and he said to me, he said, Paul, I know we've done 5 sessions now, but I wanted to tell you this in the first session because we're working on the nerves before a fight. And he said, I've got one thing to say to you. No one cares. I said, what? He said, no one cares whether you win a jiu-jitsu match or lose a jiu-jitsu match. No one gives a fuck. He said, your kids don't really even care if you win or lose or not. I was like, excuse me? And he was like, Paul, 99.9% of the population don't even know what jiu-jitsu is. I was like, holy shit. And then my next match, I lost, but I did 300 times better than I did previously. I showed up and I made mistakes. Before that, I didn't even get started. I was just like, oh shit, panicked, froze. But in this last match, I made 2 mistakes. And I was like, my coach was like, well, Paul, you made 2 mistakes. You did 2 things. You did fuck all in the previous 3 fights. You did nothing. I was like, oh, that's progress. So I'm feeling more confident going in tomorrow. I've got to fight the same guy 3 times.
We're stacking the W tomorrow, Paul. I can feel it.
Bringing back that gold. Yeah. It's in Middlesbrough as well, so everyone will have fucking 8 fingers or something. 8 fingers and 3 nipples.
Paul, last question I've got for you today. What's one belief keeping Dad stuck?
It's different for me. It's different for me can be rolled up into so many things. I have imposter syndrome. Fuck off. It's not a disease, mate. You're just uncomfortable. It's too late for me. I can't change. My business is different. My marriage is different. My kids are different. My town's different. My industry's different. Whatever your excuse is, you believe that it's different for you. Ultimately, think about all of these people that have overcome. There's too many people I have seen overcome insurmountable odds and have changed their lives for your life to be any different. It's bullshit. It's bullshit. For every excuse you can give me, I can show you 100 people that have overcame that same excuse, that same reason. So the belief is it's different for me. That's the number 1 killer. That's a fucking story. And because, like I said before, it's easier to tell that story and use that excuse. Like, I used to use the excuse, oh, I'm bipolar. It's different for me because I have bipolar. Like, funny that, when I stopped doing the things that trigger the symptoms, bipolar disappeared. And I'm not a doctor, by the way, but I don't take meds. So I spoke to my friend, Dr. Mike, about this. And I was like, Dr. Mike, I've got something for you. I've known Mike a long time. We're in Ibiza last year. And I said, do you know how I was diagnosed bipolar? Do you know if I don't take medication anymore, does that mean I'm bipolar? And he was like, well, no. I think you're misdiagnosed anyway. But, like, think about that for a second. Like, if I'm not taking the meds, does that mean I still have the thing? I never had the thing anyway. I was creating it all. Yeah, interesting that, isn't it? See, I'm not a doctor, by the way. I'm just saying. I'm not telling anybody to come off the meds, but my reason was it's different for me was that I have bipolar. Everyone's got their own version of that. So that's the number 1 belief. It's different for you.
I love it. Thanks for sharing it. Thanks for shining light on it.
My pleasure.
All right, gents, if you got value from this, here's what I want you to do next. I want you to, number 1, grab Paul's book, Upgrade, right now. the No Bullshit Guide to Leveling Up Your Life, and the link will be in the description below this. And number 2, I want you to pick one thing from today's episode and actually apply it. Paul, absolute fire today, mate. I really appreciate you. I really appreciate you being here. Where can guys connect with you, Paul?
Well, if you haven't gotten offended, that means you're not. That means you're not a wimp. Actually, you know what? I love it when I love getting trolled. I love hateful comments. Like, I love them. I have a lot of fun with them. Best place to connect with me, probably. I have the most fun on Instagram. So follow me on Instagram, Paul Mort Official, the one with the blue tick, because there are a lot of fake ones kicking around trying to sell people crypto. Paul Mort Official on Instagram. I have a lot of fun on there. I reply to every message that I get. I post a lot of rude things and get in trouble with my publisher. But yeah, I'd love to connect with you guys.
Awesome. Thanks for tuning in, Kings. Paul, I appreciate you being here. Guys, I'll see you in the next one.